off, and then I will bring Autumn and Mr. Moran in.
Are you planning on going in person anytime soon, Judge?
Yes, for certain things. Prelims. The recommendations there are that we do as many non-evidentiary things remotely as possible, but the 4 judges need to sit down and discuss it. But we've had vacations and conferences and haven't had a chance to. All right, we are live. I'll turn the record back on. It is 11:01. We're a minute late. We ended up trying to do a few things before this sentence, which we were able to accomplish quite a bit, actually. So thank you both for your with that. Good morning, Mr. Moran. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is Judge Middleton. I'm here at the courthouse in Centerville. This is file 202241SM. It's entitled People versus Joshua Moran. Your attorney, Lori Hines, is present. Also present is Deborah Davis from the prosecuting attorney's office and probation agent Autumn Kiefer, who prepared the report. Mr. Moran, do you have any objection to doing this proceeding by Zoom rather than live here at the courthouse?
No, sir.
All right, we are live on the YouTube platform, and we are being recorded. Excuse me. This is the time and date for a sentencing on a charge of domestic assault. It's alleged that way back in September of 2020, I don't like these cases that get so old, that you assaulted your spouse, Christy Moran. The warrant was issued in October of 2020, and for reasons I don't understand, you didn't get arrested until March of 2021. So the case didn't really get moved as far as the court was concerned until March of this year. Then we had a change in attorneys, and then it was set for a pretrial, then a last pretrial, and you pled to domestic violence on June 17th, and the matter was set for this morning. This is a complicated matter, and I asked for a pre-sentence investigation. Autumn Kiefer prepared a very good one. It's quite lengthy and has a lot of information, and I don't know if that makes things easier or harder, but it raises some issues and maybe it even leaves other questions unanswered. But thank you, Autumn, for preparing that report. Ms. Hines, what would you like me to know?
Well, one, I did not get the report.
Oh, geez.
And I'm looking at my email. Autumn, your email must go to my spam.
It actually should have come from Priscilla. She is sending out all those documents now.
All right, let me look. When do you know when she would have mailed it?
It would have been on Tuesday because that's when I finished it.
Got it. There it is, because I didn't recognize the name.
Well, that's problematic. It's quite lengthy. And her recommendation is deferred days and weekends and the full domestic violence treatment program and grief counseling. There's a concern here that there's been a no contact order in place for quite a while, although the courts, any no contact from this court would not have been until March. So I wasn't clear on what the status of the protective services cases are because they're being supervised out of Branch County, and there's a lot I don't know.
I wasn't aware that DHS was involved with him. I know that the parties have been separated from quite some time. I've talked to Joshua several times about filing for divorce. You know, and I know a big issue for him is just being able to visit with his children. I know that causes him a lot of stress, and it's very upsetting to him. He is working. He's always, you know, he's been, you know, he's appeared for every hearing, and he's been cooperative with the court. I think you addressed the last time that he had did a DV course the last time he was present. So, you know, grief counseling, I think that's great. And maybe domestic violence group as well. So I know he doesn't want to do probation, but it gives him the ability to continue working and get some services that might be necessary. And I definitely don't want to lean on potentially, will he get service or not service through DHS? I'd rather, you know, because they're unreliable sometimes and don't provide things for clients. So I would rather see something through this court, because I know it would be something that's going to be structured for him, and then there's going to be his feet to the fire as to doing it. So I think it would be important for him, and it as well keep his job and employment.
Well, he seems to be well employed at Cruiser, and he's supporting this family and now apparently some new relationship, and helping support them. Frankly, I would prefer that any support be towards his own children. But Deborah, what's your thought here?
Well, Your Honor, the PSI for me was full of a lot of red flags. I did speak with Caden a while back about the situation. And I guess going back, the red flags that first caught my eye were in Mr. Moran's past himself, with CPS involvement in his childhood, but it didn't correlate to any concerns that he had with his childhood. It seemed like there was a lot of chaos there. And then obviously the situation with his family member is really tragic, and not dealing with that and using substances. If he was able to quit cold turkey at the time of the birth of his first child, that's pretty impressive. I'm not certain that that's exactly how it happened. Obviously, anytime people are just self-reporting for these interviews, we don't have any documentation to back it up. There's been some unusual posting by Mr. Moran over the past year on social media that was a little concerning. It was brought to my attention. I think that he's maybe struggling with more mental health issues than what he realizes. And with the minor child that witnessed this and intervened with this, it seems to be that was a continuing issue, that it happened a lot more than what was ever reported. So the fact that he's been through some treatment before, it obviously didn't strike a chord with him or something.
Well, I think he did the anger management 10-week course rather than the full 26-week domestic violence course. This is more intensive.
Right. And I think that a more intensive class would be appropriate. But I also understand it's not accurate about his claims that he hasn't seen his children since September of 2020. It's my understanding he's seen them a lot since then, up until the no contact in March. And then I'm not positive what has transpired since then, but there are certainly court processes in place that would allow him to have a third party to assist with that. There's concerns about how he has treated his own children in the past when they were in his care. So it's a very sad situation. I think more so for these kids to have these two parents continually having chaos in the kids' presence. And I would love to see some oversight with him and this family and try to get everybody back on the right track. Kids need two healthy parents, and right now that's not the case here. So I would ask to follow Autumn's recommendation, except I'd like a longer probation in place to keep some oversight, because unfortunately, Child Protective Services, they're probably overworked and underpaid, and they have a lot on their plates, and they may not have the time or dedication to give to this family, and these kids and the mom deserve more. So I'd ask the court to consider that today. Thank you.
Well, she recommended a 24-month probation. I can't do any longer than that.
I'm sorry, I thought it was the 1 year. So no, the 24-month probation would be the best we can do.
Which under the new guidelines could be a 12-month probation if he does well on it. Mr. Moran, I'm going to give you the last word, but I'd like to hear from Autumn. Autumn, I do appreciate the very thorough report you did in this case. Is there anything else you wish to tell me?
Well, I will note that Joshua did come into the courthouse for this pre. He thought he had come in person. I did have Josh previously on his previous probation, and he did well. As it stated in my report, we're getting one side of the story. The victim did not return anything per Marissa Countryman, so I was unable to contact the victim in this case and find out her side of the story. So we are only getting one side. So I'm not saying that he's lying to me or being deceitful, and I'm not saying that he's totally being truthful. I am sure something happened. I am sure something has happened previously in this relationship. From the sounds of it, it hasn't been well for a while. Yes, I believe that he needs some grief counseling. Him and I talked about that. That may be fueling some of this. The family issues he had as a child may be fueling some of this. The anger management only gets part of the surface. The domestic violence group will get more. Obviously, it's more intense. However, I did advise him and would recommend to him that I maybe necessarily wouldn't force grief counseling on him, but I would highly suggest it. Yes, he didn't really want a probation money-wise. No one really wants probation for the oversight fees. However, I did express to him that if CPS is involved in his life, that being on a supervised probation would help him in that case. I did try and contact Branch County. I didn't have a last name for Tristan. Josh couldn't remember the last name. And obviously no one is in the office at DHHS in Branch County, probably not our county either. So I was unable to get anyone in Branch County when I called on Tuesday. So we will try and continue that avenue to see if we can get a hold of somebody so we can try and coordinate services together. But obviously supervision is warranted in this case. The 26-week DV group is warranted, and hopefully he can get that divorce started with Lori, get that stuff rolling. I tried to assist him on that as well. So we'll just try and get him out of this hole in life he's in right now and get him to the top of it by the end of the probation.
The police report, I'm disappointed that Ms. Moran's not here. I was hopeful to get some input from her. And I looked for victim impact information and didn't see any. I was hopeful she might be here. The police report said that he, being assaulted was common, that this wasn't the only time that happened. It was just the most recent one. But they had a debate as whether to charge him or not. And then she deferred to her stepson, Caden, as whether he should get charged. So the cops are standing there waiting for them to decide whether they wanted him arrested or not. I do regret that there's so much uncertainty from CPS. So far, everybody that's spoken has spoken about the shortcomings of protective services supervision. Nobody's really expressed much confidence in it. And Mr. Moran, are you still under supervision of Branch County CPS?
I've tried to reach out to Tristan. Excuse me. I've tried to reach out to Tristan. I've waited for his responses. I've heard nothing from him. I don't honestly know what's going on as far as the CPS case.
All right. Now, you're in a new relationship and your girlfriend's got kids. Are those the kids I hear in the background?
No, that's actually my youngest brother. He's mentally impaired.
Okay. What do you want me to know?
I love my kids. I want to move forward with life.
Well,
I'm willing to do whatever you feel is fair and just. I'm not against probation by any means, but in the same respect, I didn't really want financially. I get it. I would really like to stay employed. I'm like you told.
I want you to stay employed. I don't know what's going on in visitation with your children. The oldest child, Caden, is not yours, but there are, I think, 3 that are. There's been a no contact provision, which is about to be lifted. You're not going to be on bond, you're going to be on probation. So we have some level of supervision, which is much higher than whatever they're expressing from CPS. The probation is 24 months, but under the new statute, if you successfully complete all the terms of it, you can be discharged at the end of 12. I am going to follow Autumn's recommendation for 93 days in jail, 92 days deferred. Credit of 1 day. Of the 93 ordered, 87 are deferred. I'm going to do 88. So he has 2 weekends to do. Which will be scheduled by the probation department. Fine is 0. Just $75 crime victims' rights fee, a $50 state minimum fee. There's a $150 attorney fee. This is a lot, $960 probation oversight fee, but if you do it, it'll be reduced by half to $480. You're to pay for the class. Right now it's online through Kalamazoo Probation Enhancement, and from all I'm advised, it's going well. You need a deeper dive than you got last time. You are to not use any drugs or alcohol. Take a test upon demand. No assaultive or threatening behavior. Abstain from any alcohol and any prohibited controlled substances, as I indicated. Let's add that money up. This is a sad situation that really needs to be less sad. The chaos that was visited on you on as a kid, you're visiting on your kids. Painful to watch from a distance. That adds up to $1,235, which could be reduced by $480. So you're going to owe about $755 plus the cost of the class. Let me repeat: no assaultive or threatening behavior toward the complainant in this case or any other person, including the children. You're to comply with all CPS directives. We don't even know what the status is. That's no way to do business. The matter was transferred to Branch County because of a conflict here, but it made it so remote, nobody knows what the heck is going on, and we can't figure out what's going on. That's not good. The probation agent couldn't find out what's going on. You don't know what's going on. Your lawyer doesn't know what's going on, and neither does a prosecutor because they can't get any response. I don't even know whether you have an open case or not. If you do, you're to comply with all their directives. The no contact provision is lifted. Now, I don't believe Christy wants to have much contact with you, but you're not going to get arrested if you email her or ask for visitation from the children. If it's any assaultive or threatening stuff, then you could be. Now, the other piece of advice is if you want court supervision, file for a divorce, and the court can do temporary custody and visitation. Right now, you're still married, you're joint parents of these children, and there's no court supervision, and she says, I don't want you to have visitation. I guess you don't get it. If there's a court order, then it'll be structured and ordered and some level of supervision. This is not subject to a deferral. This isn't going to be taken off your record. So Autumn, you know how to contact him.
Yep, I'm gonna
I
call
want
him
you
right
to
now.
keep that job at Cruiser RV. The other thing there isn't is there's no support order. So I don't know how much money you're contributing to the well-being of your children. Apparently you're contributing to the well-being of somebody else's children.
Actually, I have a child with Samantha, my youngest.
Oh, I didn't know.
Christy has gotten all the tax money, all of the stimulus money. I have received none of that.
Well, that's different than paying a monthly support.
I understand that, but
Paying the light bill, paying the rent, paying car insurance, diapers, food, electricity. They don't get it to say, well, you get the tax refund and the stimulus check. You need to be paying regular support.
I agree.
Support
Pay
is
your electric bill since it's gonna be shut off probably today. Be a good start.
support's a raw deal for everybody. The women, in this case, who have the children, they don't get enough money to do what they need to do. And the person that's paying the support, they take a lot of money and they end up with not enough money. You're working in the RV industry, making a very good wage. A support order would be substantial. Now, the other option is she could file for a divorce and get a temporary custody and support order. But right now, this sort of ad hoc, $10 here, $10 there, I don't get it. There needs to be a support order and a structure to this. You won't like it because it's going to be a substantial portion of your check, but it's for the benefit of your children. All right. I want you to, Autumn, will you contact him?
Yep, I'll call him right now.
All right. We'll start the probation effective now. All right, you're good to go. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Deborah, I'll see you at 1:30. The first, oh, it's not yours, it's TJ's. I might be a little late for that first 1:30 hearing. I'll try to get there on time. But I have a meeting in Three Rivers. And yeah, the first one is TJ's, and that's not, it's an open intox case where the guy got a felony charge. So thanks for helping me